Thank you so much. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Business Morning on Sunrise Daily, and we do about 28 minutes of business right here in this studio. We'll start from the global space where oil prices steadied on Wednesday as investors eyed concerns around crude and fuel supplies following Ukrainian attacks on Russian refineries and the potential for a widening of the Israel-Hamas war to more directly include Iran. Let's take a look at the numbers right there. We see that it's done even better than we had yesterday. So yesterday we had $87, but we see this morning there's been a 0.07% increase to $88.98 a barrel. That's for Brent. For WTI, it's on the reverse side, even though it's slightly, it's ignorable, but its price is still at $85.11 for a barrel. Now, if we look at the factors driving these prices, first of all, telling you that more attacks on Russian refineries by Ukraine, that's another one. I think this is the third one has been shot and is threatening, of course, supply from that country. It's curbing output of gasoline also and diesel fuel. Russia is among the top 3 global oil producers and one of the largest exporters of oil. Now, investors are also concerned about Iranian retaliation against Israel. Too is a double whammy, I think they call it, against Israel on attack on Monday that killed high-ranking military personnel and could potentially lead to supply disruptions in the key Middle East producing region after it vowed revenge. That's Iran. Iran provides support of the Hamas militia fighting Israel in Gaza and is the 3rd largest producer in OPEC when it comes to oil. So the world is not steady at all. A lot of uncertainty with those regional conflicts. And then we come to Nigeria. Good news that came up yesterday from Nigeria, and that's Dangote Petroleum Refinery has commenced the sale of automotive gas oil. That's what we call diesel to local oil marketers nationwide. And we know that this is what is needed for industrial work. Mr. Edwin, the Dangote Group executive, confirmed that products are being evacuated by sea and road as local oil marketers agreed to pay 1,225 naira for the product, according to the bulk purchase agreement. It should be recalled that January 12, 2024, Dangote Refinery announced that it had commenced the production of diesel and aviation fuel, that's Jet A1. These are 2 industrial used oil in the country, and we hope that it will bring some ease, especially to the aviation sector and to big industries. And it's still good news, for the Naira this week. I think it's 2 weeks running now, and we're seeing appreciation on the Naira. We have those numbers right there. We see NAFEX continued appreciation. Gained 24 naira 75 kobo yesterday. Great one. That's for NAFEM to close there at 1,278 naira 58 kobo. So this warms the heart if you have to do things with dollar, obviously, for the session. It experienced improved supply of the USD. Consequently, the Naira gained 16 naira 41 kobo to close at 1,292. That's at NAFEM. It closed 1,292 naira 98 kobo. I wonder if manufacturers are giving a sigh of relief at this time, or if it's too soon for that. We know we still have a long way to go. I'm looking for 700 worst case scenario, so we cannot relax yet. And now let's do some corporate. It's financial statements everywhere. If you go to the website of the NGX, you see a lot of reports there. Yesterday, we had that of Transcorp Hotels PLC. They reported a 36% year-on-year revenue growth of 41.5 billion for 2023. So there you see 36% growth in revenue to 41.5 billion. Operating income also, that's more money available for operations, went up by 50%. And that's a whole lot. 13.1 billion is where it hit. And profits, I think the hotels have recovered from COVID. That's why you will see Transcorp Hotel record more than 100% profits, 133% at 6.1 billion. Their assets presumably also went up by 5% to 126.1 billion. Another company that we also looked at when it comes to their financial statements is Berger Paint. Berger Paint also did well for itself, and I'm sure the investors in these companies will be smiling to the bank. 25% revenue growth to 7.91 billion naira. Profit also more than 100%, 125% profit, and pre-tax profit at 799.8 million. That's for Berger Paint. More results coming on, and we'll see more activities at the NGX. And of course, the recapitalization of the banks will turn attention to the banking sector, you know, even though the market closed negative yesterday. Now, looking at the real sector of Nigeria, there are potentials that obviously have not been exploited. One of them is, I went to southern Kaduna some years ago, a couple of years, I think about 3 years or so, and in the very rural area where you hardly have electricity supply, you see people go to their backyard and without even planting, they harvest ginger in large quantities. Imagine what Nigeria can do with that in southern Kaduna. And that is just an example. But for this morning, let's look at some of those potentials. Let's not get tired of talking about the potentials, even though it can be frustrating. But let's look at some of the potentials of ginger coming from southern Kaduna. Kaduna State in the northwestern region is the largest producer of ginger in Nigeria and Africa, accounting for more than 60% of the country's total harvest. The ginger species grown in Kaduna is known in the international market for its quality and highly medicinal value. Other features that make it distinct include aroma, pungency, high oil, and allurism. According to the Minister of State for Agriculture, Mr. Aliyu Abdullahi, Nigeria's ginger production has the capacity to add $6.29 billion to the country's economy by 2030. Unfortunately, expectations from that projection may be cut short due to epidemic known as ginger blight that's ravaged many farms in the last farming season in southern Kaduna State. It's estimated that ginger farmers in the area alone lost close to 20 billion naira, in addition to losses incurred by farmers in the north-central states of Plateau and Nasarawa. With a new farming season up ahead, the National Agriculture Development Fund is putting in place necessary checks to prevent a recurrence of the ginger fungi disease.
From the findings so far, it was realized it's a fungal infection that has affected this crop. Now we have settled research to really find out which one do we treat. Is it the soil or the seed or both? They are working on that seriously, and I'm sure the result will be out very soon.
Ginger for us is not merely a crop. It is a lifeline for thousands of families, a key export product, and a symbol of the hard work of our people. We look forward to this task force supporting and revitalizing ginger farmers and stakeholders within the ginger value chain.
Though painful, there's a lot to learn from the experience of the 2023 epidemic.
It really affected my farm. I had 2 hectares of ginger that we farm, but to my greatest surprise, I think what I got from that farm is not up to 1 bag. And my neighbor also was affected. On reaching his farm that day, he saw a surprise. When coming back, he saw me on my farm. He was telling me he has seen wonders. I was begging him, but before I reached home, that man died that day. So it became a thing of surprise and concern. But I just depended on God for protection because I knew God will make a way for us where there is no way. And that is the way He has made for us now.
Nevertheless, there's optimism of a more successful planting season with the intervention from the government.
With this program, we're highly happy. We are too happy. We don't know what to say. What we only pray is that the government should continue like this at the plight of the farmers.
Beyond the immediate intervention, more research is being done to address the root cause of an epidemic that threatens Nigeria's position as the largest ginger producer on the continent.
We are providing, based on the state government's advice, the farmers are going to go on a crop rotation. So we are providing inputs, as we've mentioned earlier, so that the farmers can grow maize and sorghum.
While acknowledging the negative impacts of the ginger blight, the Ministry of Agriculture reiterates that there's great urgency in ensuring that the farmers bounce back quickly to prevent Nigeria from losing its place as a top producer of ginger. So there you have it. It's a heartwarming story with the promises. But of course, if Nigeria is the largest producer of ginger in the country, how much of that are we exporting? In the days of scarce FX, how much can we get from ginger? You see the farmers there still using the local equipment, hoes and cutlass for farming. How many of them have mechanical or practice mechanized farming? Well, these are questions if the government really wants to focus on that, or promises, as they say, to make Nigeria not lose its leading spot as the largest producer of ginger on the continent. So many things to do. Another thing is the manufacturers. Of course, they feed on the farmers as they get raw materials from there. Now, the Manufacturers Association of Nigeria has revealed that 767 manufacturing companies were shut down last year, 2023, while 335 companies are currently distressed, while the capacity utilization in the sector has declined to 56%. So these are some of the things, plus the raw materials and all of the other things. But leaving the agriculture sector for now, let's have joining us here in the studio the Managing Director of Transerve Disc Technology. He's also the Managing Director of TransGreen, Mr. Orakpo, Mr. Cyprian Orakpo. Thank you so much for your time and good morning.
Yeah, thank you, madam. Yes, thank you.
So you are Transerve, you are TransGreen,
yes.
and all of that. But share with us, we do know that, the indices as well as the reality tell us that it's hard times in Nigeria. But we see the Naira gaining. It's been gaining for about 2 weeks now. Are things changing?
Well, Naira is gaining, and it gladdens the heart of every Nigerian, manufacturers inclusive. But we would want it to gain more. At least let it come down to sub 1,000. Okay? And beyond the rate coming down to sub 1,000, the volatility is also a problem for manufacturers. There is no manufacturing company that can survive such volatility, the rate at which it fluctuates. Okay, because
but that's stabilized in the last 2 weeks or so.
Yeah, we hope that it continues. I mean, let it fall to sub 100 and let it stay sub 1,000.
I say 700. What do you say?
Well, I would want it to be 500. Okay, but whatever price it is, let it be stable.
Sub 1,000.
Yeah, because the inflation you have in the marketplace, people just charge any price out of fear. Okay, the reorder quantities for manufacturers, we can't bring in the raw materials every day. Okay, so like this reduction now, you should expect it to reflect in the marketplace. It may not reflect for the next 90 days because people that had bought FX at 1,800, okay, and they bought raw materials at that rate, okay, those materials must come in, and they must turn them into finished goods, and they must sell at that price. Okay, so you can look at maybe in 90 days' time before this rate can reflect in the marketplace.
But this the challenge at this time is supposed to make manufacturers look inwards for raw materials. That's look around them within the country for raw materials and reduce the need for FX.
Yeah, but definitely many manufacturers are doing that. But you agree with me that if you're going to be competitive, okay, there are some raw materials that are not available locally, which you must import. okay, as part of your production input. Not all raw materials are available locally.
All right. Now, the MPR, I don't know how much, I mean, let's be realistic. When we talk about credits to the private sector, that's loans, the banks giving, how much of that is really effective at this time? Because that's where we talk about the interest rate having an impact, you know, on manufacturers.
Yeah, with the NPR at 24.75%, the actual or the effective rate that manufacturers and people borrow from the bank ranges from 36% to 40% presently. And believe you me, there is no business, there's no manufacturing business that can survive at 40% per annum. Okay, so government must also balance it. As much as they want to reduce inflation, okay, by making fund more expensive, they should also realize that it could be a cyclic thing, because if manufacturers are not able to secure funding at a competitive rate, they will not be able to compete with other countries. Okay, so government should actually maybe reactivate some of the special financing that that they used to give to real sector at single-digit interest rate. That's the only way. There are no manufacturing company in Nigeria today that can survive at more than single-digit interest rate. CBN can come in and make such finances available for the real sector.
But that's what the former administration of CBN did, which, you know...
Yeah, and it was good, even though it was abused.
Accessible?
It was abused, okay? It can make it better. Okay, they can find out what was wrong. We don't throw the baby and the bathwater away. It was a good policy and program, okay, but it can be fine-tuned and made more effective. Look at the numbers you mentioned, that over almost 800 companies folded up in Nigeria last year. And I believe that number didn't include the likes of Procter & Gamble that left Nigeria, the likes of Nestle that shut down, the likes of The Game, the ShopRite, HSBC, UBS, Etisalat, GlaxoSmithKline. These companies all shut down and moved out of Nigeria. Why? Because of cost and financing.
Yeah, but I mean, it's not like we're celebrating it, but this should be an opportunity for Nigerians to step in and you know, produce some of the, especially the pharmaceuticals.
Yeah, but do we have the capacity? Do we have the funding? We don't have the funding. I share something with you. I went to China to inspect some machineries for our new product. The one you mentioned, Transgreen Nigeria Limited. We want to manufacture syringes. Okay, so I went to inspect the machines. On my coming back at the Murtala Mohammed International Airport, I flew Qatar Airways. Believe you me, over 75% of the passengers in that flight were foreigners. I was angry. It was like an invasion. This is Nigeria, flight coming into Nigeria, and you had 75% of the passengers as foreigners. What are they coming to do? They are coming to take advantage of the opportunities that are in Nigeria, because Nigerians are not able, we don't have the capacity to take advantage of such opportunities. We don't have the money, we don't have the capital, we don't have the resources, we don't have the financing. Okay, so it's not, we want Nigerians to take their positions, but we don't have the resources.
So now with the recapitalization of the banks, you think that scenario will change?
At what rate? At what rate? That is the point. At what cost and at what rate? If the interest rate remains at 35% to 40%, it won't make any difference. Even if there are 20 trillion economy, it can't make any difference. Because we're competing. We have Chinese to compete with. We have Indians to compete with. We even have neighboring West African countries to compete with. What do you produce? How can you survive at 40% interest per annum? So with all the bank recapitalization, if the financing, if the interest rate is as high as 40%, it's not going to work.
You know, you said something about, you know, even when the CBN had that intervention program, abuse.
Yes.
When we talk about tax holidays also, we talk about abuse.
Yeah.
So I just wonder how we will go around this abuse, because at the end of the day, it is still you and I, the human beings, the Nigerians that abuse this system that we so desperately need to boost our production.
But that's why we have the government. Government should be able to identify these abusers and deal with them. They are not spirits. They are human beings. Okay? These people who, let me give you an example. How can banks be competing with manufacturers in foreign exchange market using depositors' fund to compete with manufacturers in buying FX? Where is such a thing
What
done?
do you mean by that?
I'm saying that when the rate was going up to 1,800, even before then, some banks go to the same market and buy FX as a store of value to make profit. Do you understand? We manufacturers, we are buying FX to use to import goods and services, and then the money will circulate. But if you buy FX to keep as a store of value, there's a gap.
Okay, so we've seen it.
So some banks did that. Why would they do that? They should buy FX to sell to their customers, and not to buy FX using our depositors' money to buy FX as a store of value because Naira was being devalued or depreciating.
Okay, so, I mean, we've seen a lot of attempts by the CBN to handle things like that. We've seen them like a 100 statements, you know, giving directives and guidelines. Do you think that has been curbed?
The time for action, I can't see much action. When CBN made a policy that the bank's net open position of almost $5 billion should be sold, okay? I don't know which market where they sold $5 billion and the rate did not come down. The rate did not come down after the deadline that government gave. Did they sell those $5 billion? If they did they sell to their companies in quote, or did they sell to manufacturers? Okay, government can actually investigate and find out this instruction that we gave, that this $5 billion should be sold. Whom did you sell this money to? They're not spirits, they're human beings. Do you understand? Okay, these are the basic things that government can come in to do. Government must intervene. No country ever floats her currency 100%. That the rate is dropping is simply because government began to intervene. Government had to sell dollars to BDCs. Government had to start retail bidding, which they have done once. The moment government began to do retail bidding and selling to BDC, the signal, the alarm began to blow that you can't keep your dollars. Dollar is going to crash. So people began to offload their dollars into the market. That's why you saw this price coming down.
Is that sustainable though?
Why not?
The intervention.
The intervention is sustainable. The issue is the willpower of government to punish and to sanction the people who are making the system not to work. If government should sanction one bank or two banks, okay? If government should come in and do their job.
So you're accusing fingers at the banks here.
Both government and the banks, like I said, it's hurting to many manufacturers. When we go to the market and then we ask our FX dealers, and FX dealers will say, so and so bank. You know, you can't compete with them. That was then. I don't know whether it is still happening now, but that was what was happening before.
So what do you see now at this rate? You know, we've seen the Naira gain now about 2 weeks. We've heard pronouncements. Unfortunately, the issue of insecurity is still biting hard. What do you see maybe by the end of this year for manufacturers at this rate? We've seen man count the number of manufacturing companies that had to be shut down last year. We're hoping we will not get to that number, you know, by the end of this year. But what do you see? Yeah,
there's hope. Okay, I can say even my own business, when the rate began to tumble down, when it was going up 1,800, 1,900, many of us were ready to give up. Okay, we're ready to shut down. But when the rate began to come down, it brought a kind of hope to us. So we look forward that this year we end better than last year. But apart from the rate, there are so many other things that manufacturers face. The ease of doing business. What happens at the port? Why should we have so many agencies at the port? Okay, why should that be so? It takes you not less than 2 weeks to 3 weeks to clear out your consignment from the port. It ought not to be so.
But we had a lot of introduction of technology and
we can't see it work. It's not working in Nigeria. It's not working. Ask an average person using the port services. You can't bring out your goods less than 2 weeks to 3 weeks. If it comes out in 2 weeks, it's a miracle. But we are promised 48 hours clearing.
And now we have the customs duties, also moving this way and that.
Yeah, because of the rate, as the rates change, like for example also, but the government, I think government is coming in to check that.
Yeah, because we have another movement. We had another movement, I think yesterday, of the customs duties increased again.
That's a problem because there's no way manufacturers can plan with that. If every week the rate at which you do your duty assessment changes, how would you plan? Before you ordered for the raw materials, before you have a plan, you have a rate, you did your numbers, then suddenly these numbers change. And when they change significantly. It's a problem.
All right, thank you so much, Mr. Cyprian Orakpo, Managing Director of Transurf Disk Technology, as well as the Managing Director of TransGreen.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
Wish you the best in your new endeavor.
Yeah, thank you.
All right, so it's not been easy for manufacturers, but seeing the Naira appreciates in this few weeks gives hope to the manufacturers. But of course, we're asking for more. Speaking on behalf of the manufacturers now, let's also see some positive movement when it comes to ease of doing business. The port is one major one. One of these days, we're going to bring that up right here on the program, doing business at the port. But anyway, we're almost out of time. Let me just give you the numbers for the market yesterday, the NGX. For that matter, it was a red day yesterday. The all-share index lost 0.04%. If you remember, when we had a conversation at During Business Incorporated, the intraday, the market had gained, and our analysts had expected that it would close in the green. Unfortunately, he missed on that projection. So it closed in the red, but we're still on 104,518.14. Equity cap is still at 59 trillion naira. And the sectors were mostly in the red yesterday. Banking, our lovely banking, most liquid counter down. Consumer goods slightly down, so it's still a safe. Insurance, however, is beginning to lose some of the gains that it accumulated last week. So we see insurance down 0.37%. Gainers for yesterday were May and Baker, Ikeja Hotel. See, the hotels are coming up. We talked about Ikeja, Transco Hotel the other time, Ikeja Hotel. I think investors are beginning to look the way of hotels again. Charms also was the top gainer yesterday. The losers, UACN, Livestock, and Julius Berger, they dropped yesterday. More market numbers and analysis for you at 1 p.m. Among other things, we'll have 55 minutes during Business Incorporated. You don't want to miss it. I'll be back by then, back to the Sunrise Daily Studios.